Yeah. Thank you very much, Suji, first of all, for compiling all the whole thing for today. I would like also to thank Barbie for making the time today and also for sharing her loads of experience with us. Uh, I know that she has not only loads of experience, but a great way, a very direct and immediate way to share that. She has built a wonderful career, initially at IBM, then at Cisco Systems, and then at Netflix. And she has embraced the world of remote work as a chief people officer at GitLab, an absolutely all remote company with over 1,000 team members in more than 50 countries. She now owns TNT Consulting that she has founded. And through that, she aims to help companies with culture, coaching, and remote dynamic teams. She's currently also the chief people officer of Love to Know Media, which is a remote company with employees in more than 7 countries. And regarding her credentials, which is absolutely wonderful, she also has a master's degree and a BA degree from for communication and business from nearby Santa Clara University. So I would like to welcome this huge load of knowledge and experience today to share with us. Thank you very much, Barbie, for doing that.
You're welcome. Part of the bad thing about having so much experience is all the stuff you have to unlearn to progress.
Well, what do you see as the major challenge with all this turbulence that is going on lately?
Oh gosh, that's a big question, but I'll answer it in terms of business and HR. I think that it's a really hard time for many employees, even those of us who are very familiar with working remotely. Are doing so now in a very challenging environment where we're also, if we have kids at home, we're doing it
Oh,
while we're trying to homeschool. If we don't, we're doing it while missing our social network and our social systems that normally kind of fuel us. I know that one of the things that I love most about working remotely is the opportunity to participate in my community and in my children's schools and having lunch with my friends, not just colleagues, in local restaurants and things. And I can't do those things now. So kind of my idea of a good time now is, going across the street and walking up the hill. Uh, and and so I think that's a challenge, and it takes away a lot of the positive dynamics of remote work. And I also think that, I am saddened by the job loss that I see, and as having to, experience furloughs and layoffs and pay reductions and things that a lot of companies are going through right now. And again, and in the job loss of some of my wonderful HR colleagues reaching out to me that I have huge respect for, that are now back on the job market. And that is happening in a lot of different fields. And I think that the impact of that can't be underestimated and is going to affect us from years to come. With that being said, if this is something that is good for the trajectory of remote work and for embracing remote work, then there is some good that can come out of this. If it can remind people of the importance of family and friends and community, there can be some good coming out of this. If it can remind us about buying locally and supporting our local farmers, then there can be good coming out of this. And I think that we should focus on what good can come out of this and to not lose the lessons that we've learned and to forget about those. And many of those lessons will be as it relates to management and remote teams. The reality is, when it comes to managing remotely, it's really not a different management. There's not different management needs, but quality, great management becomes even more important. And when you're lacking great management, when you're lacking trust in your workforce, you see the consequences of that, and it can be a lot more detrimental. But those skills that we need to learn during this time are skills that we should keep with us once once we return to this new normal.
we will come back to really answer what that quality that you refer to means under these conditions. But I would like really to hear from the people that are connected on the call. What is the processes or the areas that they find most challenging to focus during that time? What is the area of HR that probably is a little bit more, I would say, effort consuming? Do you think, Suji, that we could launch the poll so that the participants really offer their own opinion on that? Oh, lovely. So let's see, first of all, to what extent we feel adequately equipped, and then we move on to the specifics. So the first question, I feel adequately equipped with tools and resources by my organization to help me getting adaptable and tenacious in the new virtual world. Yes, no, unsure. I cannot see the voting. I'm not really sure how this works. So I will move on to the second question. Did it work, Suchi? Did we take the answers? Oh, lovely. So the first one, it seems that a lot of people feel adequately equipped. So 86%, which is wonderful. We have a quite knowledge masters in the call, which is very good. So the discussion can be wonderful. So please pick up the invitation made by Suji at the beginning of the call and ask questions so that we make that a very knowledgeable exchange. As per the second one, which are the HR processes where you find most challenges and focus requirements? It seems that the winner in that area is virtual performance dialogues, which has a 43% voting. And then the second one, it's all three at the same ranking. Hiring and onboarding, along with managing employee experience on the go, as well as managing difficult conversations with transparency. Okay, so it seems that this virtuality, I mean, it's my own word, in performance dialogues is quite tough. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for providing this feedback. Well, it seems that during these times, there are a lot of hard decisions around which we need to move on. Plus that there is insecurity and there is a lot of uncertainty. What's going to happen? And within this framework of uncertainty, we create insecurity with a lot of furloughs and so on. And we need to have hard conversations, and we need to do them virtually. I mean, what else? So from your experience, what could be some good ways to create a high performance culture under these circumstances?
So I think one, whenever you're having a difficult conversation or a performance conversation, it's very important for both people to be on video. And as often as possible, your company should be using video for meetings and conversations. So much of human communication is nonverbal, whether that be intonations or hand gestures and things. It's the reality of the world. So I think you really should use video. In terms of performance dialogue, what I think is most important is to not hold back because it's virtual. Do not for any minute think that you should delay the conversation because you're not in the same room. Like I said, good management becomes even more important. And my belief is part of good management is amazing feedback and honest and candid feedback. And I love, if you just, Google Kim Scott's Radical Candor, huge fan. So my bias. But I think that, waiting for this to be over before you address performance issues or providing performance feedback is probably one of the worst things that you can do. So if this uncovers performance issues for you, you should address those with empathy, right? And and really seeking to understand. why someone's performance might be going down. Is it because they're thinking, oh, I'm remote now, so no one cares? Or is it because they are managing kids at home, or depression, or whatever their factors might be? And so understanding what they're going through can help you to manage them and give them what they need. Question here is, how do you handle shy employees who are extremely hesitant to use webcams? I think part of my answer will depend on what technology you're using. But one of the things that you'll see here, one of the things that I find people the most uncomfortable with is their room and their background, and being embarrassed by what people might be seeing behind them if they have to work from their bedroom, or they have to work from an area that isn't all cleaned up and nice. So if you are using Zoom, then you can use virtual backgrounds. And if your employees have the right capabilities in their computer system, they don't need to buy a green screen or anything to make that work. In fact, I will turn my virtual background off so that we can all feel more comfortable that, even someone who is, quote, an expert in remote work doesn't have a perfect office either. So, what I did was buy this curtain behind me. So because behind that curtain is a mirror, and I don't want everyone seeing the back side of me as I speak. So I bought a curtain to cover up my mirror. So giving some employees some guidance, some latitude, some understanding of tech, of things that they can do to feel more comfortable, I think can be good. I also think it's really, really good to lighten up, for lack of a better term. Don't expect people to have, perfect hair, perfect makeup, a perfect environment. Expect a dog to bark, a kid to interrupt, and don't make that a punitive thing, right? What is one of the wonderful things about remote work is you can get to know people so much better. You can see their kids, you can meet their dogs, their cats, their favorite house plant. You can see their home, right? So you should consider those advantages, not disadvantages. So try not to make people feel self-conscious around their environment. Obviously, it should be safe for work, right? Our partners should be dressed if they walk by. Some of those basic things. But I think that to lighten up and kind of have fun with it is nice. Find some of the online games to play. That's nice too. It can make people feel more comfortable. Other people, might just feel comfortable in uncomfortable in 4K. You are all getting me today after a hike up the Pleasanton Ridge, right? It's not, I'm not put together my best self, and I'm on a webcast, so maybe I should have. But we have priorities and we have different things going on in our lives. So, acknowledging that, and then reminding people that the reality is that, what, you're really not that big on our screen. Everyone who sees me right now probably sees a little box and a big presentation. So, it's really not as bad as you think it is when you're watching someone. And how often are you judging the people that you're seeing on screen? And most likely you're not. We all see ourselves worse than anyone else sees us, right? We turn around and look in the mirror, and the first thing that we notice as individuals is our worst quality. We're the only one that does that to ourselves. Nobody else who sees that does it to us. So, remind people of that as well and have those real conversations. The other issue, however, right now with video is the fact that many of us are struggling with bandwidth. And, if my kids are on Zoom for school and I'm on Zoom for work and my husband's on Zoom for work and we're all using the same bandwidth, then it's getting clunky. So at the same time that we want people on video, we also have to be understanding if it's just not working so great in that moment. PG&E in California is going to do rolling blackouts. That's going to affect a lot of stuff. So there, again, being flexible, rolling with it is important. If you have someone who really, really, really is, is just can't get over it, then, be okay with that for group meetings. But again, if it's a performance conversation, if it's a difficult conversation that you're having one-on-one, that is when you pull out the stops and you go ahead and have that conversation. And Brian, you're completely right. Most people when they're on Zoom or GoToMeeting are staring at themselves speaking or what they look like more than they're looking at anybody else on the screen. So, just, having those conversations and reminding people of those things isn't bad. So I think that, again, that encouragement, but the one-on-one dialogue and the one-on-one difficult conversations are where it is most important. But I'll tell you, as a speaker, I know that you were all told to turn off your cameras. As a speaker, normally when I speak, I like to see the faces. I like to see the responses. I like to see how people are reacting to what I say. So it makes me feel like I'm not talking to an empty room if I can see people's faces on video. So really, by taking yourself out of their comfort, out of your own comfort zone, you're helping the speaker be in having more comfort. So if you consider it of you're putting yourself out for someone else, then that can sometimes help as well.
Thank you very much for offering that. And it is true that in certain cultures and for certain type of characters, that might be tough. But definitely absolutely necessary, especially for one-to-ones or tough conversations. Well,
It was, yeah,
I
I'll
will.
add, Anna, it was really, really hard for me to get used to this at GitLab because that was my first all remote experience. And if you want
Oh,
to take it to a new level at GitLab, if I did a team meeting, if I did a company meeting, it was live streamed to YouTube for the whole public to see,
mm,
not just the people I was
ah,
talking to. That was really, really hard for me to get used to. So some of this is just people will get used to it,
uh-huh.
and so give them time. But encouragement doesn't hurt either.
Hmm. There are some tricks around it. I mean, I know people, I'm a Toastmasters Club member, and I know people that they really now take part in Toastmasters Club meetings that they happen virtually, just to have a, let's say, a, a safe place to test their ability to speak in a virtual meeting without being judged. And I know that it helped them a lot on becoming familiar in the whole process. So I think that there are ways to go through that if we want to.
Yeah, there is. And then I always encourage companies to let their employees use their company Zoom account or their company GoToMeeting account to do social interactions with friends and family
Mm,
too.
mm,
And then that can also help your employees get more comfortable with it faster. And it really doesn't cost your company any more to let them do that, but it gives them more social connection and it also gets them used to the technology quicker.
mhm. Well, I was wondering, with all these turbulence and with all the things that are in the minds of business leaders, HR professionals, and so on at the today virtual workplace, what happens with all these wonderful inclusion and diversity initiatives that we have started doing within the workplace? Do you see any impact? I mean, do you see any impact on that kind of initiatives?
To me, it should get better. One of the things that I love about remote teams is taking off the restrictions about where you hire, and who you hire. So you can hire people maybe that have mobility disabilities that make it harder for them to get around and get to the workplace, but they can work from home great. Um, women who might, or men, women or men who might need to be at home caring for the families more, can work for you and be much more productive because they're not wasting time commuting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, for me, one of the most diverse teams I've ever had was the GitLab team because I had two great recruiters in Nigeria. I had a great recruiter in Russia. I had what my people ops director was amazing, and she was never able to build her career anywhere because she's a military spouse. And every time
Mm.
that her husband had to move to a different base or a different region, she had to quit her job. So she kind of stopped trying. And then when GitLab, became an opportunity for her, she's been able to really build a great career there because she can move but not have to leave her job, and not have to get approval, and it doesn't have to become a big thing. So really, this should unleash us to having immense diversity. The other challenge with that, though, is that imagine a world in which you do have employees in 55 different countries. Those are
Mm-hmm.
55 different cultures. Those are 55 different norms of what you call certain people, or what politically correct terms are. So, in America, where we like to refer to our Black, citizens as African American, Well, I'm sorry, but my recruiters in Nigeria were not African American. They'd never been to America. So, it changes some of the things and the way we talk about things. So you do have to kind of define
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of what your bar for diversity is. You might be hiring someone in Saudi Arabia who has a different view on women or homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
You might be hiring someone in South Africa in which it's completely appropriate to still say a colored person instead of person of color. And if you try to explain to them why that's not okay, they don't understand the difference. And so it's hard for them to get around, okay, why can't I say this at this company? And you have to be willing to explain it. So you have to stop assuming bad intent about people, and you have to stop assuming they knew better and they did it anyway. And you have to go into oh, she messed up. Instead of me assuming she's a bad person, why don't I help to educate her on why that could be offensive in this area or this region or this company? And so you do have to spend more time educating and give people the benefit of the doubts, but don't let it go. Don't let me say the inappropriate term and keep embarrassing myself saying it over and over again, right? Tell me I did it wrong, so I don't keep making that mistake. But don't assume I'm a bad person. So it kind of changes diversity on its head a little bit, but it really should unleash the potential there.
Well, what was the thing? I mean, you really moved from another type of work, which was not that virtual, to a very, very virtual environment. And that was many years ago. What was really the resources or the tips or the tools or whatever, the things that help you transition your mindset and also the outcome of your work? How did you do it?
I'll be honest, this is when I'll get very personal. It was out of necessity. In October of 2016, I was flying high and having a great career with Netflix as their VP of HR, reporting directly to Reed Hastings, and traveling the world. And I really did travel the world with that company, and it was fun. But in October of 2016, I filed for divorce, and I became a single mother every other week. In November of 2016, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I also got to enjoy the thrill of chemo, and doing a 3-hour commute every day and flying around the world was no longer an option for me. So there wasn't really a tool that made me feel comfortable with it. It was a necessity of, if I want to work and if I want to feel like I'm still contributing, I have to do it remotely, essentially, or right next door. But even with the chemo stuff, it was odd. I live in California, but I am being treated at Sloan Kettering, so it's trips to New York every 3 months. And is a new employer going to be okay with, hey, I'm taking another week off to go to New York? And so it really became a necessity for me, and I was just so grateful that at that time frame there were some companies, very few, that were willing to hire a remote head of HR. The problem with HR is that most companies are hybrid. They're not all or nothing. And if they are hybrid, they want their head of HR at headquarters. So it makes it difficult for us to benefit from those roles. But I do hope that going forward, we're more open to that. I hope we never go back to shaking hands. We stopped doing that at GitLab years and years and years ago, because we found that when you do work remotely, you're exposed to much fewer germs. And every 9 months, we would get the whole company together, and every 9 months, the whole company got sick because they were finally seeing each other and shaking hands and getting that personal context, and they were all getting sick. And the employees that stayed the healthiest were the ones that kids at home that were still getting exposed to germs. So we stopped the handshaking thing a long time ago, and I never went back to it because with the chemo stuff too. And so I'm kind of relieved, because for the last 4 years I've been that rude person who's refusing to shake your hand, and now I feel like people understand. So there's certain things that we don't have to go back in time for, but the tools that do make it work are definitely video. I did not realize how well it would work. When I got hired at GitLab, I interviewed, and the entire interview, I never met anyone other than via video. I try to stay away from saying I never met anyone in person, because quite frankly, I found that I build the personal connections quite well via video. But when I got hired, I told the CEO, I live in Pleasanton. He's in San Francisco. For those of you not familiar with the area, that's 30 miles away, so it's not hard
Yep.
to visit each other.
Yep.
So I told him, well, once a month for our one-on-ones, I'll come meet you in San Francisco so we can, be in person. And he just kind of, okay, Barbie, if you think it's necessary. 6 months later, I still never had and never felt I needed to. So, we had great dialogue. We had great communication. I have kept in touch, surprisingly, more with my previous colleagues from GitLab than any other company I worked for, because our friendship and our relationship wasn't based on sitting next to each other. And we can just as easily connect now as we did when I worked there. And so we're staying in touch a lot better than I did at any of the traditional companies I worked at. And I think that does go to the social connections that you can build, and how fun it is to have social connections from around the world, and the perspectives you get that you would never get before. Now, what all you are dealing with now, if you're not remote companies already, you are all probably all in the same time zone, because you probably all work commuting to the same office, and now you're all doing it from home, and so you probably are still pretty close together. So it's fine to take the time to do social things together, to meet at a Starbucks, to work together. If you're missing that, you can still do that once this is all over. But right now, you got to find other ways to find that social connection. So we one of the tools that we used when we were all over the place and couldn't meet at the Starbucks was really taking the time to do social calls that were just social calls, and to not have a business topic around it. Have your Slack channels around soccer and cooking and books and homeschooling, and let people participate. And then the Do Not Be Strangers on Slack, it's called the Donut app, will pair you with people just to have a conversation and buddy up with, and that can be super helpful too. Google Suite is great for async collaboration, when you can work in documents together and it doesn't have to be meeting based, but you can still learn from each other and ask questions and answer them. There's a lot of tools out there that I could name, from everything from Trello to Slack to Cultivate AI to Zoom. All these things are fine. I think that I'm highly biased towards remote. Like, I love now that my doctor doesn't want to see me in person and she wants to do a video call with me instead. I'm like, yes, I don't have to drive to the doctor's office. I get to do it on video and I can still get my prescription. But some people probably miss going to the doctor's office. I don't. So we're all starting from different points. But if you can find the good in it, you can find that you can adjust to it maybe with a little less negativity.
Some things need to stay. Telemedicine is definitely one of them, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So since there's a lot of knowledge from the participants, let us have your opinion. What is really the best tools, ways to create some kind of belongingness, to boost employee morale in this virtual world, according to your experience and according to what you do? So let's hear the participants on the poll. Do you think, Suchi, that we could launch that poll?
Yes, Anna, certainly.
Thank you very much. For some reason, I cannot control it.
Yep. I'm going to open up my door really quick. I'll be right back.
Yep.
Okay.
So what works best for building employee morale in virtual world is per your experience? And there are some options. Let's give it some time. I can't see the progress, so I guess that you're seeing that and you're picking up on the things that you believe most.
Yeah, the dogs are going to.
The next one, there's another one. There's another poll. So, that's wonderful. Want to own your holistic self, mental, physical, and emotional well-being with tenacity? Interesting. So, do we have answers?
Yes, Anna, we have. I'm sharing the results.
Oh, Or it seems that you believe in continuous check-in and one-to-one meetings by manager very, very much. Oh, of course. What else? And then the next one is connecting with out-of-work family friends. And all the other fall into the same kind of priority according to you, which is similar. So I guess that the winners is the continuous check-in and one-to-one and connecting with out-of-work family and friends. And as per the physical and mental and emotional well-being, we're in a very good condition. Oh my God, we have the best audience here. I mean, very well prepared. That's good. So we need to make a lot of exchange afterwards to tell us what is your recipe. So I would like to get back to the things that you were offering as advice, Barbie. And since there are things that we can use as tools, but most important to make good use of the opportunities, and sometimes really make good use of necessity. There are not really good things in life that force us to do things, but this might be wonderful afterwards. So we're at this moment at a situation that has turned around everything. Not a pleasant situation. People are losing their life and their beloved ones, and yet out of this, some good things are coming, as you've said. As you've said early in the beginning of this call, people had facilitated their way of lives. They might be spending more time with their family and so many other good things. I would like to have some kind of prediction. Do you think that this is here to stay? And what could be the frustrations around it? And what should be really the most permanent changes in order for that to stay?
I hope it's here to stay. I honestly do. And I know not everyone may, but when you see the decrease in pollution in China, LA, the Bay Area, now that, people aren't driving back and forth, there will always be professions that cannot be remote. Can you imagine how much easier their life is now that all our software engineers aren't on the road anymore, making traffic for them? Our teachers that need to work in a different town are getting there quicker. Our policemen are, our firemen are, our hairdressers are, our nurses are. They're not dealing with all these software engineers who could do the job equally well at home. They're not battling the freeways with them too, right? So I think that I hope that companies will open up their borders more to say. I think that I think Anna's heard me say this. I honestly believe that skill and intelligence is universal across this world, but opportunity is not. And I much rather redistribute opportunity than just redistribute wealth. If we have jobs that can be remote jobs, we should think about hiring them in locations that do not have as much opportunity and equalizing that a little bit more around the world, and letting our employees feel like they can be closer to their communities. I think that communities built around community instead of business can be good. Eating in our local restaurants is great. Spending time with our actual local friends is wonderful. Quite frankly, as an HR person, I've never had as few sexual harassment cases in remote work as I get in an office building. It's just not as bad. I mean, we're not getting drunk at parties together after work. We're not, we're doing that with our friends, and our friends don't sue us. So so it's as bad as that sounds, that kind of helps too. So I can be myself with my community friends. With my work friends, I have to be a little more professional. I don't know if someday I might have to let you go from your job, and so how close do I really want to get? I don't know if someday you're going to have to let me go, so how close do I want to get? So there's a certain freedom you get when you're outside of the workplace where you really can be your whole self. And I also think that working remotely, you can be your whole self more. You really don't have an opportunity not to be as much. You know, you all saw as soon as I opened my door to cool it down in here, I've now got a German Shepherd sitting on the floor, right? And my daughter walked in to tell me that the homemade ice cream I'm making downstairs is done. Um, so, you guys get to see all of Barbie. And I've become a lot more comfortable with that over the last 4 years of working remote than I was when I was in a workplace and I felt like I wore a mask to work. And I don't feel like I have to wear that mask as much now. Now, some people might judge me and say she's not professional enough, or she's not this, or she's not that. I'm okay with that. You know, you get old, you don't care anymore. But I do think that you're seeing in research, you're seeing in surveys that more companies are inclined to start moving towards in this direction. A company that I'm on the board of directors from just canceled their lease. And they are going to stay all remote after this. And you're seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing a lot more of companies maybe not canceling their lease, but giving employees, saying they will give their employees more flexibility after this. But again, it doesn't work for every job. And I do want to say, I am looking at the chat. Bye, Mai. And I love the idea of Dungeons and Dragons. And I think that's super fun. Just keep in mind, depending on the size of your company and how you've hired, the same thing isn't going to work for everybody.
Yes, I mean, I hear people saying that let's get over with this vacation period in order to get back to work. And when I hear that, I can understand for that kind of perception, it would be tough for us to change our mind.
It could. Yeah, I mean, I don't consider it a vacation, but again, I was working remote before. I'm working remote after. But to me, I see more productivity out of remote work. Now, some people are into forced vacation, if you want to call it that. And I feel almost the worst for those people. Well, I definitely feel the worst for those people who want to work right now and can't. I think we should feel grateful that we can. And we should think about how we can provide more of that opportunity to other people who didn't have it before COVID-19 and won't have it after if we return back to the way we were.
Well, it is tough times, turbulent ones, and I hope that the good things will stay and we can really fight for those, let's say, weaknesses to work in favor of the people, first of all, and then for the belongingness in the organization. I would like to, before we close this discussion, I would like to address something that seems to be important regarding the quality of the exchange that takes place and the quality of employee experience. A lot of things that we've discussed are touching upon the willingness of the people to open, the willingness of the people to change, and also sometimes the transparency and the authenticity of the people. There were wonderful things being said during this call. I would like you to leave this discussion or to close this discussion with the most important on that topic.
So I got a little distracted by some of the questions. I think that authentic leadership is always important, regardless of whether you're remote or not. And I think one of the best things that a leader can do is show their vulnerability and show their struggles to the rest of the workforce so they know they're not alone. And this is a time where we should all be doing that. So, I like to send on Slack, we have a self-care channel now that we didn't have before COVID-19. And so I send the balance thing I have that I stand on sometimes while I work. I share the little mini elliptical machine I got that I can put under my desk while I sit or stand. I share that I got a sit-stand desk so I can do those things. Not everyone can. I'm invested in making my remote work environment as great as it can be because this is my life. For companies, I think that you should absolutely, you're working remote, have their monitor delivered to them. Have their keyboard delivered to them at home. This might not be forever, but you've got it anyway. So why don't you let them take it home and use it? And again, making them feel comfortable that it's okay if it's not perfectly quiet. There's apps you can get. If you don't have headphones that have a mute button on it, which I do, so I can just mute right here, you can get the Shush app for your computer, and then you can just press one button and you'll be muted. Or you can press one button to talk, depending if you're the main talker or not the main talker in a meeting. And that can make you feel more comfortable that if the dog does bark, no one will hear it. But I wouldn't go into this thinking like this is just short term, so we don't have to do it well. I would go into this saying, what if this was forever? Then how would we want to do it? And then from there back off to, well, that expense makes sense and that expense doesn't. But don't start this with we're just going to keep this together with tape and bubble gum because it's only going to be for a couple weeks, right? That isn't how you want to go into this. You do want to be more careful about your employees' well-being than that, and you do want to try as best as you can to make it possible for them. I get it. We might all be under financial strain right now, so even the idea of the cost of delivering a monitor might feel extreme, and it's easy to go back. Hindsight's 2020. On the last day they were in the office, we should have told them to take their monitor home. Too late to do that now. But if they're local and you can do hours for pickup where only a few number of people are going to be there picking up, but find ways, be creative. If it's not perfect, then iterate and change it. But really try to invest in making this a good experience for your employees, even if it is short term for you. And even if your company says, no way, we hate remote work, we're never going back to it. This is what we're in right now. It might not be the last time. So, really try to make it strong. This shelter in place thing, none of us are building up an immunity to this thing as long as we shelter in place. It's not going anywhere. So it could easily come back next winter, and our immune systems could be weaker because we've been sheltering in place. So, understand that the learnings that we're getting from this are learnings we should keep with us, and we should make it the best we can right now.
Thank you so much. I mean, there was a burst of knowledge and, first of all, enthusiasm around it. Love it. So let's see if we have not addressed any of the questions before we thank you and close the call. Was there anything that we missed to address? I'm not sure. You were really taking them on the spot, so I think that we've taken most of them.
Yeah, but Ryan and Carolyn are right. I do think that a lot of people don't have their homes set up to be a happy place to work from home. We're Love to Know is actually a hybrid company, and my CTO in Barcelona is working from his closet. It's far worse for them because they're not even allowed to walk outside at all unless they have a dog. So people are actually killing people's dogs so they can go for walks. And so it is a terrible experience for them right now. But the important thing is not to make them feel bad about it. They're making do with what they can. And then when this does open up again, this is the absolute worst remote experience ever. So, if this all turns around and your company decides to adopt remote work, they can go to whoever places we work, or if we work stays in business, they can go to the local Starbucks. They can work in their park. They can meet up with a friend and work at their house. There's things that they'll be able to do they can't do right now. So we got to deal with reality. As much as we can dwell on the fact that, yeah, it sucks to work in a laundry room, but at least you got a roof over your head. And at least you're still making money. And it's hard for us to get around that. But I really do, as much as you can be empathetic to the difficulties, but focus on the positive. I think that helps. But then again, as leaders, let's admit we're struggling too. Let's admit that I've got ice cream being made downstairs that I need to go to attend to, right? Let's admit that my son won't finish his homework, and let's go ahead and share those frustrations too, so that people know that we're all in this together. And it's not about who has it worse than someone else. someone who's working from a laundry room, we might feel really, really bad for, but they might not have the abusive spouse at home that someone else has, or they might not have the child with special needs. We're all in it together, but we all have different challenges. So, we shouldn't ever be assuming we have it the worst or the best.
Mm-hmm. Well, we really needed not just only the wonderful knowledge that you shared, but also this positivity. That was pretty good. We needed that. So we would like to thank you for this huge flow of knowledge and ideas. We even got some practical ideas as well. So thank you very much for that. We will record that, and we will be uploading that on the website of Hacking HR. So in case there is anything additional that we take from our participants, we will respond to that. So back to you, Suchi, for making the final, I think, photograph. I mean, what are we going to do now?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone, and thank you for being one of the engaging, all of you for being excellent participants and the engaging ones as well. Thank you very much to Anna for hosting this session. Thank you, Bobby, for being wonderful, distinguished speaker for this session and sharing lots of nuggets for working from the remote and virtual space. So with that note, I would also like, Bobby, would you just, since there was highest rate of challenge which has been projected in virtual performance dialogues, in the interim, we would just want a little bit of the nuggets around that.
Yeah, I try to touch on it, but I really don't think you should be doing it any differently. The only difference should be is via video now instead of in a room together. Unless you didn't have a good practice around this before and good culture around this before, in which case make it better. And then I would say that, for me, I just put a PIP on someone. I put someone on a PIP yesterday. I use PIPs differently than most companies. If I don't feel you can make it, I fire you. If I think you can, then I put you on a PIP. And I didn't want to just give her that document before we had the discussion. So I started the Zoom call. I told her why we were meeting, and then I sent her the PIP that I had written, and then I said, let's just both turn off video for a few minutes and mute our mics for a few minutes. You have a chance to read through this, and then when you've read through it, then just come back on, and I'll be here waiting for you, so that she wouldn't feel like I was staring at her while she was reading this thing. And she had the time to do that, with a semblance of privacy to get that read through. But essentially, there shouldn't be a lot of big changes. If you're doing it well, keep doing it well. Just switch it to video.
Okay. So,
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bobby, and thanks everyone. We invite all of you to kindly switch on your camera so that we can take one of the healthy, hearty snapshot of the group.
I see another dog. I'm not going to wake up my German Shepherd, though. I could, though. If I toss her a peanut, she'll be right up.
Oh,
Hi, Hi, Karen.
Oh, lovely.
Shob, hi.
Okay, I'm going to take my own picture, too.
Oh, me too. Oh.
Look, Mom, I'm on TV.
Okay, I can't do it. So you do it, Suchi, okay?
Yeah, sure, I'm doing that. And we invite all of you, we will be sending one of these survey link for the feedback of the session so that we will get to know about the feedback for sessions which you all are looking forward to. Thank you for your time. Have a very good evening. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Anna. Thanks, everyone, for making
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Stay healthy
Thank
out
you.
there and try to have some fun.
Bye, Anna.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Bye.
Bobby. Thank you, Suchi. Thank you. Bye-bye.